Hey guys, Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today we're going to have a discussion about the recently wrapped up Knife News Dealer's Choice Awards. It was a lot of fun. I really liked the way Knife News presented it, with a category and a winner sort of over a few days. I guess maybe a few weeks since there were 10 categories. And overall, I like the categories. Now, before I get into that, let me ask you guys a couple of questions. Number one, as we're going through this, I'd really like to hear your thoughts on, the people who won, the people who are contenders. Are you saying, hey, you totally missed it on this one definitely should have won? And the other question, oh, by the way, remember this is only new knives, right? Only for 2016. So you may say, hey, I know a way better EDC fixed blade than the ones they mentioned. Well, you probably do, but it's only those that came out this year, number one. Number two, here's maybe the more interesting question, and that is, did any of this change your mind about anything? So are there any knives on this list that you kind of skipped over and were like, I'm not that interested in it, but then as you look at the story, as you look at the fact that dealers thought it was really good, which likely means it sold really well, indicating other people thought it was very popular. Is there any knives on here that you changed your mind about now? I know for a fact there are a couple for me that I wasn't that interested in, but I probably will check out just largely based on what I learned about that knife from these series of contests. So let's go ahead and start off with, so yeah, I'd love to hear about that in the comments below. Are there any knives here that you weren't going to buy, but now you're like, gee, maybe I should check it out if it's really that good? So let's give you the categories and then we'll come back and kind of run through and discuss a little bit about each one. So the categories were Best New Tactical Fixed Blade, Best New Outdoor Fixed Blade, Best New EDC Fixed Blade. I really like that category because I really liked EDC fixed blades. And so, I'm a little bit drawn to that particular group of knives. Best Knife Upgrade. I think there were a few knives that came out this year that were really, really good. I will say I was a little disappointed that the Rat 1 in the D2 steel wasn't on the list. Anyway, Best Auto is on there, Best Assisted Opener, Best Value Folder, Most Innovative New Design, and the Best New Overall Lineup. So when we watch those SHOT Show videos, here's all the new stuff we're coming up with, which was the best new introduced lineup. I think these categories are great, and I really enjoyed each one of them. The only question I do have, it would be cool to see something that could reflect some custom stuff or some mid-tech stuff. They're really not well represented in these categories. Not sure if that was by design. It was only meant to be production stuff or not. Anyway, that's a discussion. Maybe if someone from Knife News wants to comment below, that would be great, and weigh in on that a little bit. Now, let's go ahead and get into the categories themselves and the contenders and ultimately the winners. So the very first one, Best New Tactical Fixed Blade. Now, this is a category that I don't get that interested in because I want usually a little more utility out of my knives. When it comes to a tactical knife, a sharpened stick is pretty effective because it just needs to stab stuff, generally speaking, unless you practice a particular form of martial arts. But anyway, that's for a different day. The category was Best Tactical Fixed Blade, new for this year, and the contenders were Benchmade Arvensis, designed by Adam Siebert, the CRKT Clever Girl, and this was part of their veterans program where military veterans are designing a bunch of stuff for them, and that was the Clever Girl. The SC Tertiary, which is basically an SC Izula turned sideways, so it's like a push dagger, and the Microtech Borka Blades collab, the SBK. All pretty cool looking knives, none that are too exciting to me, and of course push daggers are illegal in Canada, but the CRKT Clever Girl won, and I think that makes a lot of sense because of its size, because of the price point compared to some of the others, and because it's a really cool design. Plus, if you're at all a movie fan, okay, you gotta be drawn to this knife. That name comes directly from Jurassic Park, the Clever Girl, and if you look at it, it really puts you in mind of a raptor's claw for sure. So really, really cool knife, and I have no problem with it winning. All right, now what about And I don't have any good fixed blades to show you. As I have knives in my collection that represent these, I am going to pull them up on screen for you, okay? So the next category that comes up is best new outdoor fixed blades. So here they are. All right, and the blades that were on offer here or in contention are the Bark River Canoe, the Mora Garberg, the Spyderco Sprig, and the Tops Bracamo. By the way, a lot of these knives look like pretty nice knives. There are none here that I look at and go, yeah, I would never want that. They're all look like they're pretty effective, pretty useful blades. Of course, the Mora was doing some interesting things and definitely a step out of the normal Mora stuff. So the Mora Garberg is the winner in this category, and I think it deserves to win. It's a really cool knife, really well made, and combines sort of some other stuff that we expect, like a full tang and a little heavier steel and a stainless steel with what Mora already does well, which is the Grace Scandi Grind outdoor use blades. So I think that was a good choice, the Mora Garberg. Although the other knives on the list do look like really, really good knives, and I don't think you'd go far wrong owning any of them. Let's see, the best new EDC fixed blade. Now you guys know I do sometimes EDC a fixed blade. I really like doing that. The problem is there are some things that really have to be right, okay? And the winner of this, I think, really gets a lot of stuff, just nails it. And so in a second, I'll tell you who that is. But the contenders were, that you just saw there, the Bark River Bravo Necker, the Boker Tanto Dashi, the Spyderco Arc, and the Tops Cut 4.0. And the Tops Cut wins this one, and by their own admission, this was sort of, they borrowed from the Karambit with a ring for the pinky, and then gave it a 4-inch drop point blade for utility. And I think this is a really, really awesome knife. And this is one that is on my buy list. I don't have it yet, but it is definitely one that I'll be looking to add to the collection because I do like fixed blades that I can carry comfortably and easily, and this one definitely looks like it fits the bill. So Tops Cut is the winner there. And again, I think it makes total sense. As I look at these blades, I think it just gets a lot of things right. It's just the right size, just the right weight, has the best carry options, really, really looking like a good knife. So what about the best knife upgrade? Now this is one where, as I said, I thought the Rat 1 should have been on the list with the D2 steel. Also, you know, there were some ZTs, and ZT did make the list, but these sprint run ZTs were really good. Now maybe because they're sprint runs, they didn't count, I'm not sure. But the ones that did make the list were the Benchmade G10 Griptilian, number 2, the Spyderco Military in the Blurple, the S110V that we're all well familiar with now. The Bradford Guardians with the 3D handle scales and the layered G10 or layered micarta, I can't remember which one they were. And then the Victorinox Pioneer that now has scissors, and the ZT0450 CF. All right, lots of cool knives there, lots of nice upgrades. Of course, the ones that stand out to me the most are the Bradford Guardian with the 3D scales. I don't know if you've seen these. They are gorgeous. They're so, so nice, and definitely worth considering picking one up. I'm surprised. I guess it's not a new design, so it didn't make the best EDC fixed blade. But the Bradford Guardian is a great EDC fixed blade. So here's what I have to say about these. Of course, the Benchmade Griptilian was the winner, and I'm a little conflicted on this one, guys. I really am. I think that the upgrade was awesome, the 20V CV steel and the open pillar construction G10. That's exactly what it should have been, and that's definitely what the Griptilian needed. However, there are two problems I have with this. Number one is they didn't do anything earth-shattering. There are tons of G10 knives out there with pillar construction. And so essentially the Griptilian should have done this probably 5 years ago, and I don't know why they didn't. Number two, the price point on these is out of line as far as I'm concerned. Like, they're not doing anything better than a whole host of other knives. But for some reason they're charging a lot more. So I feel like, you know, if a Para 2 is, you know, even if the Para 2 with the S110V, right? Let's compare it to that. I think they go for around 140. Then really the Griptilian should be about that 140 price point. And so I'm a little, I love the design. I haven't bought one yet because as far as I'm concerned, it's just overpriced. Okay, so love the blade, love the design. Of course, that upgrade makes total sense. It's one of those things where you go, yeah, why wasn't it like this from the start? But not going to be picking one of those up anytime soon unless the price comes down considerably, or if I get one maybe on the secondary market or something. So Benchmade Griptilian, best upgrade. Yes, of course, it makes total sense that was a perfect upgrade, but I feel like it could have, should have come in at a little more aggressive price point. Let's say best auto. Okay, the best auto, and these are the Benchmade Mini Reflex 2, the Gerber 06 Auto Anniversary Edition, the Launch 4, and the Launch 6 from Kershaw. Now the Kershaw Launch series of knives, they're so cool. They look great. The designs, the colors, I mean, everything about them is awesome. I wish autos were legal in Canada. I would have definitely a few, but they're not, so that's okay. That just limits my collection a little bit. And so the Launch 6 wins, and I think it made total sense. As soon as you looked at those knives, you go, yeah, the Launch 6, for price point, for size, for overall design, just a cool looking knife. And so it made total sense that the Launch 6 won. For any of you guys who have tried some of those Launch knives and would like to weigh in, I'd love to hear you share some of those experiences, because of course for some of us in different states or different countries, we can't really do the auto knives. Next is the best assisted openers. So this is one of those weird categories. Some people really feel strongly one way or the other. They just do not like assisted knives, or they kind of like assisted knives. So the new ones that were that made the top 5 list were the Benchmade Amicus, the Kershaw Fatback, the ProTech TR5, which looks like a really nice knife designed by Matthew Lurch. Very, very Lurch design, by the way, and the SOG Sideswipe. Now, all of these look like pretty nice blades. I can almost bet you dollars to donuts that the SOG is going to have side up and down blade play, because every SOG I've ever tried had it. Which is a bit of a frustration for me. But anyway, the Benchmade Amicus wins, and it's a cool knife. If you've ever played with an emissary, they are amazing. Such an awesome knife. And by Benchmade's own admission, this design was absolutely inspired by the emissary, which is really, really nice. Again, overpriced, but we'll let that pass for now. So the Amicus, it makes total sense. Now I do wish it were a little bigger. I think it's like a 3-inch blade, or maybe just over 3 inches. And I would have liked to see a 3.5-inch blade on that. I'd like to see a 3.5-inch blade on the emissary as well, because it was a little small, which is why I didn't keep it. But it is a great knife. Next up, best value folder. All right, so let's see. I do have one of the contenders from here, the Ka-Bar Jaros, and this is a pretty good knife. There's a couple little things, but I actually think this could have won this category with a couple of tweaks, and I don't know. I hope someone from Ka-Bar is watching this, or watches some of the other videos about the Jaros, because I think this knife has so much potential to be one of the best folders, the best value folders, and really the best folders out there. There are so many things they've gotten absolutely right, but then there are a couple minor details that just need to be tweaked. And so no big surprise that it didn't win, but let's look at the ones that did get, the other ones that did go into contention. So there was the Ka-Bar Jaros that I just showed you, the Kaiser Dukes, the CRKT Large Jettison, and the Cold Steel Pro Light. Now the Dukes, really, really cool knife, too small for me, but lots of people, there's a bunch of reviews out there on it. People just love it. The flipping action is apparently outstanding. There's one here that I kind of wish was on the list that isn't, and that is the CRKT Tie-Tac 2, as Frankie from Birdshot 4 is fond of saying, the Tie-Tac 2 Tanto. That's a great knife, one of my favorites in the value category for this year, so I wish that would have been on the list. So especially wish it would have been on the list above the Jettison. The Jettison was a little disappointing in terms of ergonomics. Otherwise, though, it was a great design. Finally, the winner is, in this category, the Cold Steel Pro Light. what a cool knife, so tough, well done, budget steel. I mean, the Pro Light definitely deserves this win, I think. Cold Steel did a great job on it, and I'm sure that'll be a very popular model for them. Again, which I often say, I'm going to say it would be nice to see this in a slightly larger model. All right, now, next up is a category that is, this must have been hard to come up with 5 entries. This is probably the biggest category in terms of folding knives, and that is the best manual folder. Now, you guys know which one would have been my pick. The Benchmade Crooked River. This knife, I love this thing. It is so awesome. I think it's the best thing Benchmade has done since I've been a fan of theirs and just into knives in general. But sadly, it didn't win. The reason I thought this would win is because generally I've noticed in the industry that knives that are somewhat normal, okay? They're not doing anything outlandish, that the design isn't overly different, tend to do really well. And so because of that, I kind of thought the Crooked River, because of its sort of nod to the traditional design, might do really well in this. The other knives in this category were the Chris Reeve knives, Small and Cosi, the Kaiser Gemini, which is a great knife. I haven't owned one, but I've played with one, and I've only ever heard really good things about it. The Spyderco Gale Bradley 2, absolute win. That thing is, you could, if you just, by definition, it is a great knife. It's just phenomenal. And the Zero Tolerance 0456. Now, here's what really throws me off on this. I would say, it would be a close race between the Crooked River, the Gemini, and the Gale Bradley 2. Those were the 3 that I would have been like, one of these has got to win. The 0456, it's short and kind of fat, it's heavy, and the design is really different, which often puts people off, but this one ended up being the winner. So that really surprised me. Great knife. I've only ever heard good things about it. I don't have one. It's a little small for me. But I wouldn't, I'll probably check one out sometime, maybe if I get it offered in a trade or something like that down the road. But anyway, it did throw me off a little bit that it won, especially considering what it was up against, but I'm glad that it did. It's a cool knife. Finally, most innovative new design. Now, I don't know about this one. The CRKT Homefront was on the list. The Kershaw Barge, because it had a pry tool on the back, and the Lion Steel Kerr with the color change handle. Those were the 3 that were up. The color change handle, I don't know how innovative that is. Like in the 90s, there were Hot Wheels toys that changed color. So, putting that technology into a knife doesn't seem that innovative to me, but it was on the list, and it did win Knife of the Year at Blade Show. Now, I've got to say, in terms of a good knife, the Lion Steel Kerr is amazing. I love this knife. It is definitely one of my favorite knives of the year, and I've thought about doing this myself. This one would be on the list, and a couple of others. Probably the new Sprint of the 0452. Anyway. Also, this would be on the list, absolutely. But anyway, that's besides the point. The winner for this was the CRKT Homefront, and I do think that's an interesting design. And the Homefront as a knife, I like it, but the ability to take it apart so easily, I think goes in a different direction. And I've said this before. What I can't wait to see, and I really hope they do something with this. If they don't in 2017, I'm going to be really disappointed. But what CRKT can do with this now is make other knives that are now able to switch out the blades. So you can switch from a tanto to a drop point to a spear point, hollow grind, flat grind, whatever. All in the same handle, just by popping that thing apart and putting the new blade in. I think that is a really cool feature that could have a lot of use. Sorry, I was going to say usefulness, but I was like, that didn't sound right. Anyway, could have a lot of uses, and so I like the feature, and the Homefront as a design is a pretty decent design. So anyway, that's that's my take on most innovative. And finally, the best new lineups. So this is the best overall. They offered a bunch of new knives. Which one did the best job? And the offerings here, as you've just seen, were Benchmade, CRKT, Kershaw, Spyderco, and Zero Tolerance. Okay, now this one I feel like, I don't know. I think it makes sense that Benchmade won, all right? And there are a couple of reasons for that. Number one, I feel like CRKT and Kershaw would do well to dial it back a little. Okay, come up with 5 or 6 new designs that are amazing. And CRKT had some great stuff this year. They had the Tie-Tac, they had the Amicus, which was awesome. The Buku could have been awesome if it wasn't so stinking big and heavy. But those 3 knives, the Tie-Tac, the Amicus, and the Homefront, because of its varied feature there, because of the break takedown feature, those were pretty cool designs. Kershaw, though, I feel like they were all over the place. Like, they have new knives with horrible steel that it just totally put me off. They had a bunch of really small knives that, again, not that great. There were a few standouts, but I feel like they just put it was like, let's throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And I don't think that's a great, I think I would like to see more intentionality. I would like to see more thoughtfulness where they say, hey, this is a winning design. Let's go with it. This is awesome. And they had a few that were kind of like that. But overall, I felt like Kershaw just flooded me for sure with too much to even know about or care about, right? Notice how with CRKT, I could name 3 or 4 different new models. Kershaw, I can't even, like, the only, I can think of the Showtime and the Entropy, but the Entropy might be from last, there was just so much. Anyway, Spyderco, they did some cool stuff, especially their mid-year releases I really liked, although some of them are still not available. And ZT is the one that I thought should have won this, really. Maybe not. But ZT and Benchmade were the top 2 contenders for me. They both did a good job. They both had some really interesting designs. And I would have been, they were both companies where if someone said, hey, I'm going to buy you a knife, I would say, yes, buy me any one of the new Benchmades or any one of the new any one of the new Kershaw or ZTs, and I will be happy. Like, every one of their new designs I liked, at least to a degree. So, nice to see them both there. Benchmade wins, and I think, again, here's the thing about Benchmade. I think they did offer a great lineup, but the stuff they offered, finally they come out with a titanium frame lock that carries tip up. Well, couldn't you have done that 5 years ago, right? Like, what took you so long to figure that out? And it's a frame lock that works well. The Proxy, by the way, is what I'm talking about, and it is a great knife. Okay, but I feel like, with Benchmade, it was like all your frame locks should have had the same features that you finally figured out with the Proxy. So there you go, guys. Those are all of the knives that were in contention, all of the winners. I think this was a really, really fun story to watch. Thanks a lot, Knife News, for doing that. I know it would have been a lot of work to put those out there and to ask all those questions, have all those dealers respond and deal with all the, would have been a lot of work. I think it was well worth it. Great story. Totally enjoyed it. That's all I've got for you guys. Again, I'd love to hear in the comments below what you think about this, and if you're going to buy anything based on these results. That's all I've got. We will talk to you soon.